Hey friends, this is Reverend Jerry, the People's Priest, aka Father Jerry, and today I am coming to you with your Monday Musings. So oftentimes when we are in the midst of a trial, in the midst of a storm, we find ourselves disoriented and kind of all over the place. And we forget that we have the ability to decide to be still, to be present, to be the embodiment of peace in that moment. And it makes sense. You know, when you have your routine disrupted, when you have your normal pattern of living disrupted, it's disorienting. That's the whole point of being disrupted. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to have a disruptive consciousness. You can choose to have a consciousness of growth, of expansion. And I think we can learn this principle through the illustration of the gospel story of the disciples in the boat with Jesus, an image that's actually just over my shoulder. And remembering that in that story, the disciples were in the boat, they were fishing, and all of a sudden this storm just began to come around them. And it disrupted their daily catch of fish that they were trying to get, their dinner. And Jesus is laying on the floor of the boat, whatever you call that part of the boat, and sleeping. And he is not bothered. He is in the deepest sleep that you possibly could have. And the apostles are all running around the boat, freaking out, trying to figure out what's going to do. They're all thinking that they're going to die and all the stuff. And finally, they realize that Jesus is sleeping, and they kick him and they say, "Hey, wake up, do something here. Like, don't you care about us?" And suddenly, when Jesus comes to, he gets up, he speaks to the storm, and he says, "Peace, be still." And the storm dissipates. And, whether or not you're a person that believes in miracles or whatever, I don't think that's relevant, particularly to the story, not in my way of looking at it. But that's fine if that's, the way that you want to look at it, because there's multiple vantage points, right? But I think what is important in this story, in that instance, is that Jesus chose to have a consciousness of peace. He chose to use his authority of a self-actualized person to say that in the midst of this trial, I choose to be peace and to be still. Yes, there is a storm happening around it, and we do not deny that reality, but we accept the fact that in the midst of all of this chaos, we choose to be still. We choose to be stable. That doesn't mean that we're not affected by the storm, but we choose to affect our life in the midst of it by choosing the stillness. So that might mean in the midst of this conflict, I choose to spend more time making sure I have some water, that I drink water, that I take a snack, that I take a nap from time to time, and cultivate that stillness, knowing that in the end, the storm will end and we will survive. But in the middle of it, we have to choose to be that peace, to be that stillness. And we find that inner strength by making the conscious effort to do that. And in fact, creation teaches us that in the center of all chaos, there is peace. I live here in Texas, in Houston, where we have hurricanes all the time. And in the center of the hurricane, the eye of the hurricane, there is pure peace. If you stand in the middle of a hurricane or the middle of a tornado, you can see all the stuff swirling around it, but in the middle, all is well, all is calm. You forget sometimes that you're in the middle of the storm. So too, we can make that choice, that conscious effort, whenever storms rage in our life. So remember, dear friends, that life is short, and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who journey with us. So let us be swift to love, make haste to be kind. And whenever you're in the storm, make sure to choose to be peace and to be still.
Monday Musings is a weekly reflection series brought to you by Reverend Jerry Maynard, the People's Priest, and produced by C&G Communications. For a small donation of $25 per month, you can be listed as a podcast sponsor. For more information, please visit revjerrymaynard.org and click on the People's Priest podcast under the Media tab.